Hi guys, welcome to episode 6 of Oxbridge Study Secrets. In this episode, I want to debunk the myth that we have specific learning styles, and then in the episode after this, we'll look at some proven strategies for optimal learning to help you ace your exams. So, some of you guys may have been introduced to the idea of learning styles when you were in school. Basically, the learning styles theory suggests that we have individual preferences that determine how we learn best, and that we should be taught using our preferred learning style to maximize our learning. But what if I told you that scientific studies are actually becoming increasingly critical of this idea? What if I told you that all you think you know about learning styles may not be real at all? Yeah, this is your blue pill, red pill moment, and if you didn't get the Matrix movie reference, then I must be getting really, really old. But look, before we dispel the learning style myths and come up with some better alternatives to learning styles, it's so useful to get a basic understanding of what they are. Because there are so many different categories of learning styles, but most include some variation of the following 3 types. So the first one is learning according to sensory preference. For example, according to this style of learning, a visual learner might have a preference for images, pictures, and spatial understanding. So using mind maps, pictures, color pens, and highlighters might be a good way for them to learn. An auditory learner would have a preference for sound and music. So they may prefer listening to audio recordings of content or reading notes aloud to hear their own voice. And a kinesthetic learner has a preference for using their body, their hands, and their sense of touch. So they would want to focus on the sensation of pen on paper when writing notes and use physical objects that they can hold, feel, or touch, like notes and flashcards. Now, the second example of a learning style is learning according to our thinking style, where according to this, we're one of 2 types. The first is a concrete learner, who likes to use explicit facts and data and examples when solving problems. Concrete learners, they think practically and logically and solve problems using the established methods that they're taught. And when they're introduced to new content, they really like to know even the smallest details to ensure that there are no gaps in their understanding. On the other hand, abstract learners prefer to use intuition and imagination when solving problems, and they apply concepts and rules in a more fluid way. They may take ideas or observe patterns from one area and attempt it to apply to a completely different problem or subject. And they may be able to draw analogies and relationships between concepts that others may not notice. And the third kind of learning style that we see a lot is learning according to speed and accuracy, where we have impulsive learners that are characterized by being able to solve problems quickly but inaccurately. They believe that they grasp concepts quickly and skillfully, but they often take shortcuts when processing new information and end up overestimating their capabilities. With practice, they might learn to solve problems quickly and accurately, though their accuracy may not still be as effective as that of reflective learners, which is the second type in this model. Now, reflective learners are the ones who tend to solve problems slowly, but with a lot better accuracy. And although they might initially take longer to process new content, they're also more likely to spend time and effort to understand that information in order to apply it competently, or in some cases with perfectionist tendencies. So guys, these 3 are really common learning styles that we see. And it's so likely that some of us can actually see ourselves being portrayed accurately in that description. We think, yeah, we are quite a visual learner. We do like abstract concepts, we don't really care much for concrete things. And we are more impulsive than we are reflective in our learning. But given the fact that we do see these similarities, why have learning styles gathered such a negative reputation in the scientific community? Well, there are 4 big criticisms. The first criticism is that these styles have no actual correlation with how we learn. These learning styles refer to traits and tendencies that we have as individuals, but there's been no scientific evidence to support that these significantly influence how we learn. Because in truth, while these learning styles were originally adopted from other theories in human cognition, the way we think and process information, they are being incorrectly applied to learning. For example, though someone might find it easier to process the world more through their feelings and sense of touch, like a kinesthetic sense, than for example what they see or hear, this doesn't mean they're going to learn best in that way. The second criticism is that if we adopt our preferred learning styles and we only learn things by that way, we neglect the skills that come less naturally to us. Whereas in reality, instead of just focusing on what our strengths already are, we should devote time to developing the skills that may come less naturally to us. Because this helps us to enhance our cognitive abilities as a whole and gives us a wider range of tools to solve the different problems that we'll be exposed to throughout our lives, not just in exams. Criticism number 3 is that the nature of the subject we're studying is more important than our individual learning preferences. In fact, a 2006 study showed that different groups being taught the same material perform better when taught using one specific learning style than using different ones suitable for each individual. And this doesn't make sense. For example, in maths, it's generally easier to learn for everyone through practicing example questions as opposed to listening to an audio tape, In contrast, things like learning Spanish grammar endings may be easier to learn through reading and making notes compared to drawing pictures and diagrams. I don't even know how you'd represent grammar endings with pictures and diagrams, to be honest. And good luck doing your French listening test if you've only been making written revision notes. There's no substitute for bringing in our auditory sense for a listening test. Criticism number 4 is that the learning styles are defined inconsistently and they're identified inaccurately. Because in truth, there are too many ways to describe learning styles at the moment. In fact, in 2004, a review published that there are 71 different styles, which is just too many. And not only are these definitions inconsistent across different learning styles, but there's also been criticism directed towards the questionnaires that we're being given to direct us to help us identify what our learning styles are. Because oftentimes these questions are phrased vaguely and they're misunderstood by students like us, leading to answers that don't actually reflect our preferences. So as a result of that, the learning style recommended by the questionnaire may not be accurate for us. And another huge problem is what is called confirmation bias, which essentially means that you're going to answer questionnaire questions in the way that matches what you already think your preferred learning style is. In other words, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that just confirms what you think you know about yourself, even though in reality, what you think may not really be the truth at all. Alright, enough Matrix vibes, although I'm sure Morpheus would have been proud of that last one. Guys, in the next video, I'll be back to share with you the best practices for learning that we can draw by combining the criticisms of the existing learning styles model with new developments in learning theory. In the meantime, I really hope you found this video useful. Please do like, share and subscribe and get in touch with me here or on social media. Guys, that's it for now. Keep growing, keep striving and keep shining.